Today we are going to discuss about organizational management. So we have discussed about SAP HCM, SAP ERP HCM, functional module we discussed about, and it has got sub modules like personal administration, and the next module is organizational management. This is the module that we are going to start today. Organizational management module, sub module. These are the sub modules. So let's understand what is organizational management. Let's understand what is organizational management. So okay, let's talk about organizational management. Now, organizational management deals with, we have to understand the organization deals with the organizational structure and the reporting structure. We can say that deals with or describes the organizational structure and the reporting structure within a specific period. This is what is organizational management is all about. This module is all about the organizational structure and reporting structure within a validity period, within a specific period or within a validity period. This is what the definition is. So this organizational structure is organizational management is essentially working with, we can say organizational management is working based on the organizational plan. Organizational plan. Now, this organizational plan, within the organizational plan, we are maintaining this organizational structure. Organizational structure. Okay. So to work with organizational structure, you require standard objects are provided. Standard object types are provided. Standard object types are provided. And relationship are also provided. Relationships. Relationship. These two, what I'm trying to communicate is we know what organizational management is. We can define organizational management, which describes the organizational structure and reporting structure within a validity period. So, when you're talking about organizational management, this organizational management is working with one organizational plan. It may be a standard organizational plan or a custom plan. That is a different thing. It is working with an organizational plan. So, within that organizational plan, you can create and maintain organizational structure. So, to maintain, to create or maintain the organizational structure, you require standard object types and relationships. These two objects are required. Two things: standard object types and relationships are required. Essentially, you are creating and maintaining organizational structure with the help of standard object types and relationships. For standard object types, you can also call it as data element. You can also call data elements. And for relationships, you can call it as OM relationships. We can call it like that. This is the overall idea of the organizational management. This is how the organizational management is working. Okay, so we know what organizational management is. Let's understand what is organizational plan. It is important that we understand what is organizational plan. So each organizational structure is maintained within an organizational plan. The plan may be an active plan or a inactive plan. Essentially, you are maintaining the company structure within an organizational plan. So you have plan version. You have plan version. So plan version is nothing but we are maintaining the plan version based on the company structure. So it can be current and active. The plan version can be current and active. It can be current and active plan version. So there can be more than one plan version. The standard plan version is 01 standard plan version, meaning you are maintaining the structure based on plan version 01. You can maintain your own custom plan version also, which is a 2-digit code. Based on that 2-digit code, we are maintaining the organizational structure. These two things we have discussed about at a higher level. Let's come to organizational structure. What is organizational structure? Organizational structure is nothing but the organizational elements and units and their relationships within a validity period, just like your organizational management. So essentially, you are maintaining the company structure, the hierarchy you are maintaining with the help of the organizational structure. So to maintain, to create, to delete or modify, to update or delimit, you require certain standard object types are required. Standard object types, which are also, you can also call data elements. In PA module also discussed about we have discussed about standard object types and data elements. So OM, organizational management, has also got certain standard object types and data elements. We are talking about those standard object types and data elements. So let's list out some of the standard object types and data elements. We can call it as, because we also have standard objects and elements in PA, we can call it as OM standard object types and OM data elements. We can call them that. OM meaning organizational management. So let me maintain some of the object types of OM. One is organizational unit. One is organizational unit, job, position. I'm listing out some of the object types that are maintained. Organizational units, job, position, these are the objects I'm maintaining. Okay, so these are some of the object types that I'm noting down. Position, work center, cost center, task. These are some of the standard OM objects, OM standard object types. So what is this OM standard object types? So what we are doing is we are discussing one after the other. We have started the organizational management subject, and we can maintain the organizational structure in this fashion, and we are discussing about each of these things. Organizational plan, organizational structure. Now we are discussing standard object types and data elements. So I'm calling it as OM standard object types and or OM data elements. So what is this OM standard object types and data elements? It's nothing but a unit within the structure. It is nothing but the unit, identical entity, OM standard object type is nothing but an i- identical entity within a structure, within a structure, of course with a validity period. it is applicable for all. This is what an OM standard object or a data element is. So we are listing out some of the object types like organizational unit, job, position, work center, cost center, task, or person. These are some of the standard object types we can discuss. Some of the standard object types. There are other object types, but we are discussing about the most frequent ones like org unit, position, job, cost center, all these things. You can have user group or task group. Qualification, you can also have user group or task group or qualification. These things can also are also some of the object types, but the most prominent standard object types are these, which are almost always used. Out of these, mandatory are these. This is a mandatory object. These are objects are mandatory objects when you are talking about organizational management. Okay, so we have talked about this object, and we have also maintained this objects, different standard objects available to you. So this is a two digit, one or two digit alphanumeric code. This object type is a one or two digit alphanumeric code. One or two digit alphanumeric code. What is that? These are one or two digit alphanumeric code. Why we are saying one or two? The standard ones are usually maintained as one digit, or some are maintained two digits. You can maintain two digits also. So these are the most essential organization object types. Organizational unit, job, position, work center, cost center, person, task. These are some of the essential object elements. So using these objects, we are maintaining this organizational structure. Using these objects, we are maintaining this organizational structure within a organizational plan. That is all about organizational management subject. Now, other things are there: user group, task group, the qualification. These are also object types. They are also object types like these, but these are standard and some of them are mandatory, like this is mandatory, this is mandatory, all these things. So minimum you have to understand these many objects. There are a lot of other objects are there, but they are not very important. You can create custom object types also, that's a separate question, but you have to understand these things. So let's understand these important object types. Let's talk about organizational unit. What is organizational unit and other things we can discuss about. So let me go with organizational unit. So we have to understand what is an organizational unit. We discussed about different object types and other things. So we are specifying this as a organizational unit. We can say that organizational unit is the element that represents the critical critical object type, critical object types of a company. Within the structure, within the structure, of course it has of a validity period. Organizational unit. So this is a key, this is a key object type. When you are going to maintain any organizational structure, you are definitely talking about organizational unit. Let me give an example. Example can be something like a division or a segment or a division or a department. These things we can consider as one organizational unit. We can maintain the organizational unit like HR department, for example, or finance department. So the important point to be noted here that under one organizational unit, under one organizational unit, one or more organizational unit can be maintained. Can be maintained. Meaning one object under the other object of the same organizational unit can be maintained. Under one organizational unit, one or more organizational units can be maintained. Like a subdivision, division and subdivisions you can maintain. For example, multiple one or more organizational units can be maintained. So when you are maintaining this under one unit, more or other units are, when you are maintaining like this, so the highest point, the highest point in the structure is called the root organizational unit. We are talking about organizational unit. So when you are talking about organizational unit, you are also telling that one organizational unit, one or more organizational units can be maintained under one organizational unit. You can write like this, or the other way also you can write. Let me type this. You can maintain like this under, it's both the same thing. So when you are maintaining it one of the under the other, one or more org units you are maintaining under one organizational unit, then in that case the highest point in the structure is called the root organizational units. Meaning indirectly under root organizational unit, other organizational units are being maintained. It means that. So this organizational unit is represent, we know that it's 1 digit or 2 digit code, alphanumeric 1 digit or 2 digit code. So we can say that organizational unit, it can be maintained as O. It is represented by O, which is a 1 digit code. To identify this type of an organizational unit, it is maintained as O. Okay. So let's understand job. Other objects we discussed about, this org unit we discussed. Let's talk about job, for example. Job, position, all these things we have to discuss one after the other. Let's go to job. So we have to understand what is a job. Job, we can specify general skill set. Job specifies, job specifies general skill set, general skill set within the organizational structure. That is what a job is. So you can specify job as C. The code, 1 digit code for job is C. What is job? Job specifies a general skill set within the organizational structure. So there is a difference in between general English language and job here. So a person holds a job, but in SAP that is not true. Job is specifying general skill set within the organizational structure. The person holds a position, but the person doesn't hold a job. In SAP, a person doesn't hold a job. A person may hold a position. That's what a job is. It is represented by C. So when you say that, we can say, for example, some manager or some example. For example, I can say some manager or some, I can say manager is an example, or some executive. These are some of the examples we can say as a general classification or broader classification we can say as a job. This statement, this definition is also correct. We can have another definition, which is job is nothing but a broader classification of the skill set within the organizational structure. We can say that as a job. Okay, let's understand position. Other object that we discussed, we are discussing one after the other. We discussed about these two. We are discussing about position. Let's talk about position. So position specifies specific skill set, specific skill set within the organizational unit, within the organizational unit. Position. So we are talking about specific skill set. It represents, position represents specific skill set within the organizational unit, which may not be applicable for the entire structure. You can specify position code as S. We are using different codes. Okay, now the Zoom will stop now. You can immediately log in. I mean, so it has to, okay, you can log in tomorrow. If you have, let me stop this.